If you're watching this video, you're probably interested in starting a law school-based public legal education program, also called a street law program. The original street law program began at Georgetown Law School in the early 1970s, and there are now more than 200 law school programs like street law around the world. Today, we're going to ask and answer some questions that help you down the path to a high-quality program. And with me to do that are two law school program directors, Amy Wallace, who directs the street law program at New York Law School, and Efrain Marimon, who directs street law at Penn State Law School. So Efrain, when you present this program to a new law school, what do you say are the benefits to the law school and to the law students of participating in this program?
It's really not that difficult because there are a lot of benefits both for the law students and for the law school. For the law students, they have really an opportunity to practice their lawyering skills, things like oral communication, legal research. But they also get an opportunity to practice their empathy, really working with the community and perhaps some of the clients that they'll be working with in the future. From the law school's perspective, it really gives them an opportunity to have those bridges to the community, really making those connections to the individuals in the communities that they themselves may not always be in touch with. And you know, another interesting component of this is that the law students themselves have their own community. Being a part of the street law alumni really creates this reinforcement of networking and connection between them that really goes well beyond the classroom.
Amy, you've been working with a number of law schools this academic year. What do you find are the obstacles that they face in starting a new program, and how do they overcome those obstacles?
The largest obstacle that I encountered was having the law school approve our course as credit-bearing. Initially, the law school thought that the program should be volunteer-based, and then they thought maybe they would give the course 1 credit like mock trial team or moot court. And because of the demands on law students, I really felt that it was important that they be given the time to devote to this program. So I sat down with the law school and talked to them about the training that was involved and the lesson writing, and they agreed that the class should be credit-bearing.
Amy, to continue with the process, what are some of the ways that the street law organization can help new law schools get started?
Right now, I'm working with a number of new law school-based programs. Usually I start with a phone call with the professor or the law student who's directing the program, and we talk about their vision because street law looks really different around the country. In terms of resources, street law has a huge bank of student-centered interactive lessons. We have syllabi for credit-bearing programs and course proposals. In addition, street law has a huge network of teachers across the country who've participated in street law programs, like the Summer Institute for Teachers. So I can reach out to those teachers, and they're more likely to want to partner with a new law school program.
And if you're watching this outside of the United States, Street Law Inc. and Georgetown Law has had opportunities really to work with other programs around the world. For example, I recently had the opportunity to work with the Law Society of Scotland in training their street law students. I also worked with the University of Hong Kong's Human Rights and Street Law program in developing and reinforcing some of the skills in their program. And then I also worked in Moscow, Russia in developing new street law programs. So if you're interested in really developing any of these programs in your country, Street Law Inc. or Georgetown Law could be helpful in reaching out to some of the experts in the region.
Amy, tell us how this program has been received by the high schools and by the high school students who participate in the street law program.
Generally, these programs are incredibly well received by the high schools. The programs vary dramatically from ones where law students go in and teach a weekly class, which is far more common with the credit-bearing model. With the volunteer programs, the law students will go in once a month or a couple of times a semester. I always tell my law students to not get too attached to a particular vision for the program until they've spoken to the school and see what the needs are of the school and the high school students. In terms of courses where a street law program would fit, this would obviously fit into any kind of law class, civics, U.S. history, and economics.
You know, from the high school perspective, it really does help the students really build their critical thinking skills. Really embracing the learner-centered approach helps empower students really think about the role they play in government and civics. And really, the teaching in which is endorsed by the street law model really helps support one that creates those opportunities for students really to have ownership over their understanding of government, laws, and civics.
Efrain, in the US, many of the programs are credit-bearing experiential programs, yet still others are parts of pro bono programs, and some, in fact, are fully run by law student volunteers. What are some of the benefits and drawbacks of the credit-bearing programs?
Yeah, so there's certainly advantages. For the U.S. law students, it is really demanding while they're providing a great service to the community. Really they're putting in together student-centered lessons for their classrooms, putting in the time and commitment to the community. For the supervisor, the supervising law professor, they're putting in the administrative components where they're coordinating the schools and placements, the curriculum development and supervision, and then some of the pedagogy that comes along with teaching and law. One of the downsides is perhaps that you have to put in a proposal that goes through the curriculum committee. But one of the ways really to start off, much like I did in my program, which was really to do a pilot through a special topics course where you would get administrative approval, get an opportunity to run the program, get support from the law students, and then use some of that support really to get some of that momentum towards having that be part of the curriculum for the law school.
On the other hand, there are huge advantages to a volunteer student-led program. The law students get an opportunity to work on their organization and leadership skills. And for those law students who start a program on their own, it's a huge sense of accomplishment for them. One of the issues that we always have to keep in mind, and I mentioned to my law students when working with them, is that longevity is the biggest issue with the student-run programs. You might have some super engaged law student one year, and then they graduate and the program falls apart the next year. So I've really stressed finding student leaders for following years to my current programs.
And then I'd like to add that for reasons related to support, supervision, and consistency from year to year, the Street Law Organization strongly recommends that law schools work toward a credit-bearing model. And then in other parts of the world, there are other variations on the theme. For example, in Eastern Europe, many of the street law programs are part of existing legal clinics. So I just have one final question. Amy and Efrain, you both have your programs up and running and have had for a couple of years. What's been the reaction of your law students to participating in the street law program?
My law students love street law. I ask them to submit a weekly journal and reflect on the small moments in class. They love watching something click for a high school student. They love watching a student who was really quiet at the beginning of the semester choose a big role for the final mock trial. It's been incredibly rewarding for them and for me.
Similarly, our students have responded very well, very excited about the program. But one thing that they found, which isn't a surprise, is that teaching about the law really helps them understand those legal concepts that they learned their first year. And it's not a surprise to us as law faculty, really, because we've learned that teaching about the law really helps us understand it as well.
Videos that demonstrate street law's unique teaching pedagogy are also available in this series. Those videos and other information about street law are available on the organization's website, streetlaw.org.